All right, Mr. Speaker, the floor is yours.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Brian Egolf, and I am the Speaker of the House in the New Mexico Legislature. And thank you for tuning in to another in our series of listening tour events. This is uh, a process that we started back in December of 2015 to find ways to get especially members of the legislature from along the Rio Grande corridor out into other parts of the state to help us shift some of the focus from Santa Fe, Albuquerque, and Las Cruces to other communities around the state. And we've gone and we visited places from Shiprock to Chaparral and many places in between. And each time we make a stop, we ask local elected officials, business leaders, entrepreneurs, economic development professionals. We've asked the same four questions everywhere that we've gone about what can the legislature do to help improve the business conditions and business climate in your community? What infrastructure challenges do you face? What challenges do you face with workforce development or with the workforce in the community? And if you have one big idea that you would like to see the legislature tackle, what would that one big idea be? And over the last almost 5 years, we've gotten some terrific ideas, and many of them are now the law, whether it's the creation of the airport authority in Roswell, New Mexico, to streamlining the way broadband is deployed in New Mexico. Lots of ideas that came from these types of listening sessions are now the law of the land, which has been a great thing for the economic diversification efforts in New Mexico. I had made the commitment that we were going to visit every county in New Mexico this year. And then about 2 weeks later, a global pandemic struck. And so those plans went out the window. And now we're doing them online every other week here on Facebook. So thank you for tuning in today. We are looking at Sandoval County and what's happening there. And we've got a great group of panelists with us. Certainly, I'd like to mention first, we have State Representative Damon Eli from House District 23. He represents Corrales and the north section of Bernalillo County on the west side. He's the chairman of our Rules Committee in the State House. And we also have Representative Derek Lente, House District, 65. 65. He's the most famous person on the Zoom today by far because he, to great acclaim, delivered the votes from New Mexico's delegates at the Democratic National Convention and really did a great job showcasing New Mexico. And Representative Lente is also the chairman of our Agriculture and Water Resources Committee in the House, and he is a real farmer. He does not just play one on TV. He raises cattle and alfalfa and lots of other things. So he is an accomplished farmer as well as a great legislator. We have also with us the mayor of Bernalillo, Jack Torres is with us. We have Dora Dominguez. She's the director of business and economic development for Sandoval County. We have Gordon Moore. He's president of Electrosonics, Inc. He's a member of the Rio Rancho Chamber of Commerce, and Dr. Sue Cleveland. She's superintendent of schools for the Rio Rancho Public Schools. I think before we jump into the conversation about economic development and recovery, I'd like to ask Representatives Eli and Lente to share a few words with us before we go to our great panel. Representative Eli, the floor is yours.
I'll be real quick, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for doing this. I want to quickly say that I represent a very tiny part of Rio Rancho as well. The Speaker wouldn't have known that, but there's a little tiny part of Rio Rancho. I represent a couple of precincts proudly. I think as we get into this, there are two things that I'm going to want to talk about, and why I appreciate this so much is the small business loan program that we did pass in the special session that is still out there. I'd like to get as many businesses aware of that opportunity because it's a good deal for businesses, particularly during this pandemic. And then we're going to talk about something that I think might be fun specifically for Sandoval County, and that would be whether we might be able to actually get to internet for the entirety of the state of New Mexico, which would be particularly important and difficult for Sandoval County, that I think has, if I remember right, as an old county commissioner, 8 pueblos and 2 chapter houses, and a very rural, both urban and rural in Sandoval County. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. So thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. And you can take a representative out of the commission, but you can't ever take the commissioner out of representative.
I'm always a commissioner, but once I leave the House, I'll no longer be a representative. So
That's right. That's right. Chairman Lente, would you like to share a few words before we go to our panel?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good afternoon, everybody. It's certainly an honor and a pleasure to be a part of this panel this afternoon. Appreciate you wanting to highlight Sandoval County. I represent a large portion of Sandoval County. I represent the town of Bernalillo, and I'm really happy to see Mayor Torres here on the call this afternoon to share with us some of the great things that the town has going on economically, and also share with us some of the things that we are also suffering on economically, and some of the backlash that we've had from COVID. And then also, again, very proud to represent the 7 pueblos in Sandoval County, as well as the chapter houses of Navajo Nation. And considering how large Sandoval County is, the number of economic possibilities that we have, potentials that we have, current opportunities that we are afforded, but also some of the things that we have also been able to once again suffer during this pandemic. And so I'm glad to see Lieutenant Governor from Santa Ana Pueblo, Mr. Sanchez, is on the call as well to share with us, because I know that his casino is still yet one of the ones that has yet to open, and I know that they've been very cautious in their approach, and I know that others have taken that same lead. And so I want to have the opportunity for them to also share with us what they also see as we move forward in 2020, and we will look forward to in 2021. So again, Mr. Speaker and others, thank you once again, and good afternoon, and look forward to the discussion.
Thank you. And we also have been joined by Commissioner Catherine Bruch, and as Chairman Lente said, Lieutenant Governor Joey Sanchez. So I think maybe what we'll do is, the format for these is much less for you to hear from me and my colleagues, and more for us to hear from you. So I'd like to turn it over to Mayor Torres and Commissioner Bruch and Lieutenant Governor Sanchez. We'd certainly like to hear how you are doing in the fight against COVID-19, but also what you're seeing happening with economic activity in your jurisdictions, in the town of Bernalillo and in Sandoval County, and at the Pueblo, and what you think the legislature can do to be a greater partner to you in your work serving your constituents. And so, Mayor, I don't know if it looks this way to others, but you appear to be right next to me on the Zoom screen that I'm looking at. So I'll turn it over to you, because it looks like you're right next to me. So Mayor Torres from the town of Bernalillo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for this opportunity. I certainly appreciate it, and appreciate all that you do for us. I know it's a oftentimes thankless job, especially at your level. So on behalf of my town and community, thank you all. And in my biased way, I will especially thank Representative Lente, who's worked real hard representing us, and applaud him for his communication skills. He's been fantastic since day one. In terms of the town of Bernalillo, we've actually been quite fortunate. We certainly have our horror stories in terms of economic impacts of COVID. We've had some businesses who have closed their doors seemingly permanently. Those are extremely worrisome, obviously, but for the most part, it seems that most of our businesses are weathering that storm. We had a number that went out for loans early on. We also were awarded money by the state with the small business continuity grants. Our application is about done. We finished training today with the state. And in regard to that, the one thing that I saw is a huge gap for our community and local businesses is sole proprietors apparently are not eligible for any of those continuity grants. And so what that does is we've got, for instance, several small barber shops that are there's no employees. It's owner owned basically, and they won't be eligible for the continuity grants. And I think that creates a gap for some of the businesses that are most in need. I don't know if that's more a federal regulation, but again, finding a way to help those folks would be significant for us. Otherwise, we've had real positive response from our community in terms of interest by small businesses that appear to qualify based on the information we had. From the town's government side, we've been extremely blessed. Our revenue to this point has held strong. We haven't lost revenue compared to the same time last year. We were stunned with that. But again, I think initially, a lot of people have talked about the unemployment benefits and the extra dollars that came to families, and they spent them on their needs. And our businesses tend to be pretty basic for the most part. So from those points of view, we're very fortunate and very blessed. I don't know how far you want me to go, Mr. Speaker, if you'd like me to go into my wish list or if you want me to wait.
Well, why don't you give us your number one wish, and then we'll go to Lieutenant Governor.
Absolutely.
And Governor Montoya has joined us as well. So we'll go to them. We'll go to them next, and then we'll go to Commissioner Brook.
My number one, if I only get one, is to find a way to create a partnership relationship between local governments and DFA and tax and rev. It's a constant battle. And because we're at their mercy, it really puts us in a difficult situation. And in terms of trying to budget, the lack of information that we're allowed to get according to them by law is really problematic. So that would be at the very top of my wish list.
That's funny. I've never heard that from a local government official before.
Of course not.
No, it's very true. And before we go on to the governor, lieutenant governor from Santa Ana, I'll mention that the New Mexico Small Business Recovery Act, in which Representative Eli played a leading role, makes small business loans up to $75,000 available, and sole proprietors are eligible. And the nice thing about those loans is there's no collateral or personal guarantee required. It's run through the Finance Authority. So to share that information with even sole proprietors that might be interested, we hope that that'll be a good resource for them. So now let's go to Governor Montoya and Lieutenant Governor Sanchez from Santa Ana Pueblo. Can you hear us? And if so, we'd love to hear from you about how your Pueblo has been dealing with COVID-19 and what you'd like to be seeing from the state in terms of how we can help support your economic development efforts.
Good afternoon, Speaker Ingolf and the rest of the group on Zoom. Thank you for inviting us to Pueblo, Santa Ana. I know that we don't have a lot of time to discuss here, but again, we've been struggling like everybody else. I know that the Mayor Torres has talked about small businesses. I guess on the flip side, we're a little bit bigger on the west side of our tribal governments here. But all said and done, at the end of the day, we both seek resources for our revenue so that we can help support our community base. And again, we're trying to stay safe like everybody else. It's difficult when you have a younger generation, don't quite understand the concept of the virus, and I have to work on educating everybody here. We've been pretty fortunate when this whole thing happened. We were to shut down after Buffalo Thunder, and we do have a uniform police department thanks to all the businesses that we have. And we've been diligent, and we've been involved with the Department of Health through the state, doing a lot of testing, less the vaccine. So far to date, we've tested, we have 950 plus residents. If you took away minus that, probably I would say 100 children. And then somewhere in between, we have some adults that didn't take it, but the numbers reflected 0 cases the last 2 tests. On the second one, we did have 1 asymptomatic, but we took diligence to house her in one of the residents in Albuquerque. And so we're back to 0 now. Again, it's a challenge. But I wanted just to say that thank you for having us. And again, we've been, to be humble in this conversation from the Pueblo of Santa Ana, we've been pretty diligent about wanting to work with outside entities, governments, and we have a relationship with the county. I know that the commissioners changed, but as you all know, we have a fire station on our property, and we also allowed the Sandoval County to run our soccer complex out in Santa Ana. That being said, one of the things that sort of affected us on the management side of our corporation, which is we have the flag through the High Regency, and based on, again, this was no fault through the governor, Michelle Bishop Mohan, when we, depending on how the behavior in the state works with our resort, the difficulty there is that most of our clientels are contracts. So when you deviate from 14-day quarantine back down to 7 days, it makes it a little bit difficult for us, but we're hanging in there. At the end of the day, though, I guess because of COVID-19, where I sit today, I just want to extend our appreciation to everybody. But moving forward, I think Santa Ana is willing to partner and work with not only the state, but with neighboring communities there to make it a better business venue for us here in this middle part of the state between Santa Fe and Albuquerque. And just keep us in mind, when we slice up the pie, we want to be part of that, but we want to also let you know that we're viable. We have financial sophistication. We have human capacity to offer in this recovery effort. Again, most of our businesses, with the number of employees that we have, are a majority of them non-tribal members. So that being said, we're again, we're halfway through the year. Hopefully they find a vaccine and we get back to normalcy. But please, for all of you that are out there, our hands are open and willing to work with you and partnering to a lot of things moving forward. Appreciate it. In Indian language, we say, it's appreciated. So I don't know if the Lieutenant Governor wants to say anything. This is his first year in this position. So I'll give him a couple of minutes if he wants to say something. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I just want to thank you for inviting us to this panel. I mean, being a first-year lieutenant, I came into something that nobody has, I guess, experienced in quite a number of years or decades. So it's quite a challenge on board trying to keep our people safe and, you know, trying to see how we can increase our businesses on the west side. So it's been a challenge both financially and emotionally on both ends of our tribal people and our, you know, just our neighboring city, Bernalillo and Rio Rancho, just trying to provide that service to them. So it's been quite a challenge, and you know, we're doing our best and making efforts to protect the community as well as the people who do patronize our businesses. But it's all about taking care of one another. You know, this whole bigger picture is making sure that we're all safe, and when you do shop at our businesses, you're safe to shop there, as well as, you know, providing you with that service. And that's it for now.
Very good. Well, thank you. Thank you for being with us. And we look forward to many more years of a strong partnership with the state and continuing to work to strengthen our government to government relationship. Thank you for taking time to be with us this afternoon. Next, we'll go to Commissioner Catherine Brook from Sandoval County Commission. And we'd like to hear the same from you. How has the county been dealing with COVID-19, and what's happening with economic activity in your county and revenue to the county, and what can we do? What can we do to be of support when we reconvene in January?
Yeah, we've got a lot going on here, but let me start by thanking Governor Montoya and Lieutenant Governor for joining us, but also for their willingness to partner with us and the other local jurisdictions. They've been amazing partners thus far, and we're really grateful for that and looking forward to continuing to work on a lot of different, not only economic issues, but public safety and service as well. So thank you. And I wanted to reiterate what Mayor Torres said about, you know, our county, I think, has done fairly well. but we have some of the similar issues with some folks that are just not going to make it. And our concern around those sole proprietorships in District 1 is something that I've been made aware of. I'd like to defer a little bit to Mr. Shallow and Dora Dominguez on some of the specifics for, you know, what we're trying to do and what we're looking forward to doing in with our specific industries and how we'd like to develop there and work through COVID. But with that, I'd also like to mention that I'm really concerned about the very first thing that Representative Eli mentioned, which is our internet connectivity. We have huge pockets statewide, and in my district, there are many small businesses that suffer as a result of not having that good, decent speed of connectivity. And I've heard from constituents about school being a problem when our students were trying to go online. So that was along the river, up you know, in the Algodones area, in Bernalillo, in Placitas. So many of many areas of my district have suffered with this, and I just feel that it's a huge barrier for our economic development for the future. So it's definitely always at the top of my list.
Thank you for that update, and it is very heartening to hear about the feelings of partnership go both ways with Sandoval County and Santa Ana Pueblo. That's good news. Next, I think I'd like to turn to Gordon Moore from Electrosonics, Dora Dominguez from the Business and Economic Development Department at the Sandoval County, and Jerry Shallow from the Rio Rancho Chamber. And maybe Mr. Moore, why don't we start with you, and would you tell us, would you tell the folks watching what Electrosonics is and does, and maybe tell us what you're seeing in terms of economic activity with your business, and what the legislature and state government might be able to do to help improve the business climate in which you're operating.
Can do. Electrosonics is a local manufacturer. We're a New Mexico corporation. We manufacture the wireless microphones used in about 80% of all North American television, news, and motion picture production. So we don't do much business actually in New Mexico. Our customers are in Los Angeles, New York, Atlanta, Miami, Chicago, the major news hubs. And the impact of the shutdown in New Mexico was actually good timing for us, because the days immediately prior to the New Mexico shutdown, our customer base in California, New York, Georgia, Florida shut down at the same time. Our customers basically went out of work. We saw a huge impact. We dropped to the only business we had in April, May, and June was repairs for the networks that still had crews out gathering news. So we dropped to about 20% of our normal business level. It's been crawling its way back up, and I'm happy to say that as of this date in September, my September is now back up equal to what my business was in March 15th prior to the shutdown. So it's encouraging that we've returned. It has exposed a few things, and we got a PPP loan. So we used that to cover payroll. And so since the beginning of June through now, we have been working people, in some cases, just a 16-hour week, but paying a 40-hour paycheck, and everybody stayed on the payroll. And we can't do that indefinitely, but things are starting to pick up, and we'll catch up. But I've got more stuff on the shelf than I normally would now. What it really uncovered for us, however, was the digital divide. The biggest problem is the people who don't have access to high-speed internet. Some of our employees needed to be able to work from home. We could send them home to work, but some of them, it was just impossible because there was no way for them to log in and get access to our systems. So that really crippled our ability to put everybody that was capable of working from home actually working from home. So we had a number of people furloughed for about 6 weeks, and the digital divide could have softened that, if it wasn't so bad, could have softened that blow. Definitely, we need to be considering the future of the internet infrastructure. Now, some of that may be answered by the satellite system currently being put aloft by Tesla's founder, Elon Musk. That system is, designed to offer global access regardless of where you happen to be. We'll see how well that works, but fingers crossed that might take burden off both governments and states as far as being able to get access to the rural areas and help people get that going. The other thing that came up, of course, is the impact of the school schedules. I have a number of employees with school-age children, and now they're really juggling, struggling to find a way to juggle work and homeschooling and the hybrid situation. And Sue, no fault on you guys. You have to do what you have to do, but it really highlighted to us the impact that has. It's caused considerable stress for those parents. We're actually going to be having a meeting next month internally. I've got all my top people chewing on it, what we might be able to do here at the factory for our employees, for those parents who are really struggling to juggle work and kids at home and keeping them up to speed. We may find a way to help them here. But I think we need to take a hard look at what the government can offer in terms of support to working parents with school-age children, because this is a problem they still face pretty much in the summers anyway, except that there's no schoolwork load on top of it. But we need to find a way to do it, and it's not the school's responsibility. We need to find another way to allow a dual income family to have a safe place for their children to be while they have to go to work.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. It's a terrible struggle, between and the families that have the hardest time accessing broadband are often the least able to afford not to go to work, to stay home with the.
And in some cases, it wasn't a matter of income limitations. It was infrastructure limitations. Some parts of Rio Rancho have very, very slow internet speeds. And, because their infrastructure was laid 30 years ago and hasn't been updated. I'm fortunate. I'm in a kind of a rural neighborhood, and they just put in brand new fiber optic lines. So all of a sudden, I've got tons of speed and no kids at home. So.
Well, it sounds like you just made an invitation for some of your employees to put their kids in your backyard.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that. And knowing what your business, it makes sense that your mic is by far the best of anyone that we've had on Live from Home. You're clear
it's an
as
audio
a bell.
thing.
Clear as a bell. Next, we'll go to Dora Dominguez. She works in the Economic Development Office or Department at the government of Sandoval County. Ms. Dominguez, why don't you tell us how things are looking in the county from your perspective, and what you'd like to be seeing coming your way from the state?
Sure. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for the opportunity to address this group. Having the agenda in advance of what the topics are is also very much appreciated. And then I would agree that what Gordon and the folks at Electrosonics do for our community, the wages, what you're doing now to ensure that you maintain your payroll is truly to be applauded. And thank you for all that you do. And I think you're right. Now all your employees are going to know that you have high-speed access at your home. So, that call for children, could be easily, answered. So
there you go.
But, so I would just like to say that with respect to COVID and impact on businesses, what is the closure rate of businesses unopened? So I just kind of put that out there as a question, and would only say that if it wasn't for the resources within the local governments of within Sandoval County. You know, in the case of the town of Bernalillo, if I wasn't on the phone with Mike Clopel at least once, sometimes twice a day, hearing, you know, who's in trouble, who's hanging on, who needs help, what technical resources, you know, I wouldn't know. So I guess and then the same would apply for our mayor in Hema Springs, you know, in contact with him. And the CARES Act money is important. I just shot off an email to Carmen Morin at DFA because the county also got an allocation of the small business continuity grant funds. And our application has been live now since last Tuesday. The inquiries have been robust. But, you know, we haven't started scoring them, but we had anticipated being able to allow sole proprietors to qualify. So I thought, while the mayor, you know, made that remark, I was typing, you know, Carmen, is this in fact the case? So hopefully, you know, we can get a response to that, because when I think about our communities like Placitas, which, you know, Commissioner Brooke, that is your area, your constituents, we have a lot of home-based businesses. There's a lot. And I've been spending a lot of time these last couple of weeks reviewing all the business registrations for the unincorporated areas of the county. And you've got to hand it to folks that are running businesses, you know, out of their homes, and sometimes, you know, only employing, you know, one person or a contracted person occasionally, but it's definitely part of our business base, most definitely in Sandoval County. So my question about, you know, what businesses have closed, what businesses have not reopened, I guess if I had something on the wish list, I wouldn't trade the partners that I have, that I'm working with on a daily basis to get the answers to that question. But if we could have something more concrete and definitive. I don't know if UNM, if Beaver's doing anything like that. If we really have to wait until the SBA tells us the numbers of the businesses that closed, and we've got to wait 6 to 8 months, you know, I'm afraid that, you know, the time to help them, you know, might have already passed us. So, you know, whatever we could do to really find out, and I would guess that through tax and rev, Speaker, you know, who's closed, you know, who hasn't renewed, you know, their state, you know, business registration might be a way to get a jump on that. And so that's one of the things, again, the agenda kind of led me to say, you know, if we could get that. Incentives, LEDA, JTIP, yes. I mean, important and critical, not just to the recruitment of new businesses to the state, but also to support those businesses that are existing, to support business retention and expansion of our existing businesses. So that's real important. And then on the wish list, you know, I know capital outlay reform gets talked about, and some people giggle and say we've tried to do that already as a state. But capital outlay reform now, in the discussions that we're hearing from the Association of Counties perspective, is signature infrastructure projects. You know, what are the things that are road, water facilities that really will have an impact statewide? And I think of Paseo del Volcan as, you know, really I-25 and 40. Wow, we have that there. It's there, and it's planned out, and it's on maps, but big infrastructure projects that have statewide impact. You know, if that could be on the list of when we talk about capital outlay reform. But those are some of the things, you know, businesses, the loan program, love it. Have attended 3, maybe now 4 trainings with the New Mexico Finance Authority on the small business loan program. I think it is a winner. Now, is it getting the kind of tractions? Are businesses applying? I've heard from some small businesses that, you know, when they hear loan, they think that, no, I don't have the capacity to take on a loan. And I can't have that hit my credit and my accounts, my balance sheet. So I think there needs to be more of an invitation to apply. We would be willing to, you know, help to support those efforts, because sometimes it really is about who tells us about the program, a name, a face, a trusted resource, you know, will finally, you know, would hook somebody to really realize that it is a win and it is a valuable program, and we need to get more businesses applying. So not a lot, just a little bit of a wish list. Thank
Well, that's
you.
great. It's very helpful, and you know, we're always eager to hear how bills we pass, when the rubber meets the road, how are they working? So that's very helpful. Next, we'll turn to Jerry Shallow. How do things look from where you sit about the economy in Sandoval County and economic recovery and diversification?
So thank you again Speaker for putting this together today. So really from that standpoint, it has been a matter of businesses are struggling right now overall, particularly the small businesses. I think the biggest struggle right now is the restaurants. They're, they do have the outdoor dining, which we've promoted hugely, but they're 25% indoors. As the temperatures change right now, we're in the best time of the year to be in New Mexico by far. This is great weather, but we're going to get to the colder weather. They've got to increase their revenues. We've seen a number of restaurants close because they can't increase their revenues to cover what they had before. And when you try to do a lot of to-goes, it really, it floods the kitchen, yes, but their capacity is a lot less. So it creates that challenge for them. So kind of what we're seeing from their standpoint, the restaurants, as well as some of the other businesses, for instance, the entertainment businesses, like a bowling alley and places like that, they haven't been able to been open. But yet they're still paying their mortgage every month. So we really haven't looked at that. And the other thing that I'm hearing from businesses is give you an idea, when PPP rolled out and EIDL and all of those, I personally helped a few hundred businesses in filling out those applications and getting them going in the whole 9 yards. What I will say is a lot of businesses have gotten more comfortable now filling out the loan applications and the grant applications. But the challenge has been right now is they're looking at their bottom line and they're saying, boy, I'm going to fill out another loan. And they're basically mortgaging their future for today. Now, what I do really appreciate is all the hard work that went in this last loan, because out of all the loans that they've done, not having them to personally guarantee and all of those things, this loan probably has the least amount of teeth in it out of all of them. But it's just a matter of the leverage side. When you're running a business, how much leverage can you keep going with? So they've got a plan for those future. So we've met with a number of them and gone through your loan payments starting next year are going to be X, which means your revenue needs to be this to cover that and the whole 9 yards. So kind of one of those challenges. That's what we're seeing. Now from the requests and suggestions on things that we really need is, particularly in my rural areas, I'm very involved with the census, trying to get everybody counted possible. We're doing a great job in Corrales. We're doing a great job in Rio Rancho. But man, I can absolutely tell you who doesn't have high-speed internet. And that's my Cuba, my Hemis Springs. Bernalillo has struggled. They're at 53%. And then in Bernalillo, they get the numbers included in their numbers is also Santa Ana Pueblo and Sandia Pueblo as well. So, when you look at, if they don't have strong internet throughout the state, if you were to look at those numbers today on the census, no internet means I'm not filling out the census. And that's basically what it's amounted to. So we're losing, millions of dollars because we don't have solid internet capabilities in our rural areas. So that's one of our big wish lists. In addition to that, something that I'd like to throw out there is CTE. We need funding in the, whether it's in the schools or the communities or the counties, we need CTE facilities. US Chamber statistically has 30% of all hospitality and restaurant jobs not coming back, just not coming back at all, because we've become more efficient. We're doing things differently. So we're going to have to, a lot of those folks are either cooks, which there's still a demand for, but even more of those are customer facing employees like waiters and waitresses, etc. So these are folks that do have the ability to work with customers, but we're going to have to get them some CTE skills that really fit the employers and the jobs that we can get in the future. So if we just looked at 30% of Sandoval County's population that's working in hospitality and restaurants, you know, you're looking at easily 20,000 people that could benefit from a stronger CTE program.
And that's career technical education.
Yes, sir. So that's the welders, the electricians, the plumbers, different technical and trades. Before we had a shortage, and now with all this construction that's going on, there's a continued shortage. So if we're looking at bringing some potential employers here, that's one of the first things we always have to figure out is where are we going to get the employees from? And CTE would help us out a lot.
That is something that we hear at almost every stop, is the importance of that, which makes our next person to speak all the more perfect for timing. I'd like to turn it over now, and thank you for the update, Mr. Shallow. That was excellent and gave us a lot to think about. I'll now turn it over to Dr. Sue Cleveland. She is the superintendent of the Rio Rancho Public School System. Dr. Cleveland, thank you for being with us. Why don't you tell us how's it going with reentry? I'll also say I am not personally familiar with whether or not Rio Rancho Public Schools have opted to go for some in-person for the K-5 age group. So why don't you tell us, and for those watching from around the state, how are things going with your district, and how is COVID impacting you? We can imagine some, but we'd like to hear, straight from you what the situation is, and if you could maybe also speak a little bit to the issue of career technical education.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for being here. It's a pleasure to have you and an opportunity to share a few thoughts with you. We are the only larger district in New Mexico that has returned to in-person learning. We began that on Monday. Our plan was K through 3. We're bringing back 4 days a week. And our thought about that is the tremendous amount of learning loss that children at that age experience in terms of learning to read, mathematical content, and so we have been able to spread out, and so all those K3 children are coming 4 days a week, and then our 4 and 5 are coming on the normal hybrid 2 days a week, Monday, Tuesday for one group, and Thursday, Friday for another. And it has been there is not one thing that is normal that we've had in the past in terms of our food service. We are serving children at home that are still virtual. We gave our parents choices of whether they wanted to be virtual, stay there, stay home, and we've had a good number that chose to do that. And then the others, if they wanted to, they could do hybrid. And as I said, we've got 2 types, really 3 types of hybrid. But for the elementary children who are allowed to come back now, and that's all that is allowed under the public health order, we do have the structure that I mentioned. And so we've only been at it a few days, and everything seems to be moving very smoothly. I think that one of the things that was most moving to me and really hard, and there were no good answers in this. There were no easy answers in what we were going to do. And I respect decisions that are different in other districts, and who knows who made the right decision. But I can tell you this, I have stacked on my desk just heartbreaking pleas from parents that they had to get back to work or they were going to lose their jobs, or they had to get back to work or they weren't going to be able to feed their children. And so we had I don't know who was happier in day one. The children were very happy when they came back, their little backpacks and their new clothes and their new haircuts and all of that. But I think mom and dad were happier still. I have to balance that with, this has been really hard for our instructional staff, our teachers, to do this. And there's a lot of mixed feelings there. They were very divided on whether we should come back or not. And so that's kind of where we are, but everything is going very smoothly. I can tell you that every single thing we were asked to do or could do to keep them safe, we have done. And some have been hard to do, and some have been expensive to do, and some have been surprises, like the new filters that we found out a couple of days before we were ready to open that we would need to install. But I would like to comment on a couple of things that I think have already been said, and I would like to really support that. One is that even in an urban area like Rio Rancho, we have lots of connectivity problems, a lot of them. And so if you live in older areas of Rio Rancho, the amount of connectivity is very limited. And when you get outside of the main part of the city, then you start seeing some real challenges. And so it's not, we worked to put 800 connections into homes where they didn't have it. We're not able to afford it. But even that is a challenge. And you may have that experience in your own home, but mom and dad may be needing that connectivity for work. And then the children want to sign on, and they're competing with their parents for that computer time. And if you have several children at home, then what we're seeing is a lot of the connectivity crashes because there's just too many people demanding service. And so we've reached out into the community. The city has stepped up to allow people to drive outside the libraries and get some connectivity. Some of our churches have stepped up to encourage people to come to the church site and be able to connect up. But it's taken a lot of, and some of our businesses have been very helpful with that, but it has had to be a community effort to try to get everybody on during the academic day. And so it has not been easy even in more urban areas. And so that whole idea of having connectivity improved across the state is just vital for everyone. It's vital for schools, it's vital for businesses. It's just, it's one of the most important things that we could do for the future development of our state. I would like to mention a couple of other things too that others have mentioned. One of them being the, keeping people busy and finding work. And so for our kiddos that graduated from high school or those that graduated from college, they're desperate to go to work, and we just don't have a system yet in place to help connect them together. And so we do have some of our college graduates, some of them with CTE degrees, that are waiting tables at Gardenia's, hoping to be able to connect up with an employer who wants their services. But everybody's shut down. Dora and I've had this conversation on a couple of occasions about how do we connect our people back to the companies who need them to work. And so you hear from the businesses, we need more people. We hear from the young people, I can't find anybody that will even talk to me about a job. And so how do we get past this time that we've had, and what's happening has been happening for a really long time. A lot of those young people are leaving New Mexico, and then we commiserate over how we don't have the workforce that we need. And they were here and they would have loved to have stayed here, but they can't find work. And they've got student loans to pay, and they have other things. And so Colorado grabs them up and Texas grabs them up. And then we sit in our business meetings in New Mexico and we talk about, oh, we don't have any qualified people to work. Well, a lot of them were here. And so how we open those lines of communication that would help, we certainly want to be part of that effort and helping. Representative Eli, I know a wonderful Rio Rancho High graduate. She's a third-year law student, and a fabulous Cleveland student who is a third-year law student, and they want jobs and they have expensive loans to pay. So if you want some top-notch kids in that area, I could give you some names, but it's true in all professions. And my heart just goes out to these kids who work so hard, and now they're through and they can't find a job. And I know that people they need them. And we hear the labs need workers, but they're not hiring anybody. They won't let anyone talk to anybody right now. So, how we do that. And then a couple of other comments that were made, and then I will not talk anymore. I know you've already heard from all the superintendents of the state, but prior year funding will kill us. And we've got to look at funding different for next year for SEG and transportation, or we're not going to be able to make that. The other, one of the bright spots through this was we were building 2 new schools. That kept a lot of people employed during that time. And there is so many needs in terms of upgrading and some in the area of technology, but just maintaining our school buildings. And the need to put a lot of people to work to take care of the investment we have. We've invested so much in the last 20 years in the school buildings in terms of construction. Now we need to take care of those buildings that we built. And so I'm sure you are aware, one of your former speakers, Speaker Lujan, that was his passion, was maintaining the school facilities that we have. But any help in that area, it helps everyone because it puts a lot of people to work, and our schools desperately need it, and particularly in the area of technology infrastructure. So I know you all have so much on the plate. We are the largest employer of Sandoval County, if you don't count UNM and the hospital. And so we have the school piece that's really important, but we have an awful lot of people who work for us. And as an employer, I'm trying to move heaven and earth to keep all those people employed. Letting people go now, you take away their health insurance, you take away their family security. We're doing everything we can to keep every one of those people who work for us employed. And so and we don't want them going on unemployment, and we don't want them having to ask for Medicaid and all those other expensive things. I think it's really better to keep them employed. I think it's smarter financially for the state to do that. And I just want you to know we're very committed to trying to keep all of our staff on. We did during the Great Recession, and we hope we're going to be able to do it again as we come back out of this particular economic crisis. But again, thank you for all you do. You are always willing to listen to us, and I know your choices are very challenging and very difficult, but thank you again.
Thank you, Superintendent. You've got really, one of the toughest jobs there is. Your education staff, the teachers, have an incredibly hard job, and one silver lining out of this may be that you now have hundreds of thousands of parents who appreciate teachers even more because we've been sort of substitute teachers and tech support and all this as our kids have come home to remote learning. We see firsthand just how hard a job it is, and so thank you for what you do to create the leaders of tomorrow and support all the children that are served by your district. So now is the point at which I'd like to circle back to Representative Lente, Representative Eli, see if they have any final thoughts, and then we will conclude. So let me go in reverse order. This time, Representative Lente, if you have any final thoughts you'd like to share, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Final thought is 1 hour is definitely not enough time to talk about these types of issues, but I really appreciate the very robust discussion that we had this afternoon with this really distinguished group of leaders in Sandoval County. It means a lot to me. I know it means a lot to the folks that we help to support and serve within our respective communities. I've been taking lots of notes, and certainly one of the overarching themes is that of infrastructure, and that is of internet infrastructure, and the need that for us to continue to push to make sure that we can get that, whether it be in the smack dab middle of Rio Rancho or the town of Bernalillo, or in the Torreon chapter town hall out there next to Cuba, New Mexico. Extremely important, and something that that you and I have worked on for the past several years on trying to push for funding for those types of initiatives. There are some other things like the small business loans that Mayor Torres brought up for sole proprietorships. And then also looking at the Santa Ana Pueblo and the number of other pueblos that really rely a lot on the tourism benefit that the state has in regards to their gaming and hotel operations, and knowing that in 2017, the economic study by Bieber at UNM showed that Pueblo-owned enterprises employed just under 8,000 people and had an economic boom in this state of about just over $1 billion. And so when you think of that, and you think of that, a quarter of that revenue comes from outside of New Mexico, that this pandemic has certainly done a number to those pueblos that not only just rely on that revenue source, but also count on it to fund their own tribal governmental programs as well. And so the things that I think that we should look at in the future are obviously expansion of internet, broadband, almost executing it as now a human right, that we should all have that right to a broadband base, looking at how we're going to go back to school safely, but then also looking at some of the things in regards to some of the tribal aspects in regards to like revenue sharings. Is this a year that perhaps that we not expect a revenue share from the tribal casinos? I think that's a really important issue to consider, taxes and otherwise. So as we move forward, Mr. Speaker and others know that I've taken plenty of notes, that we will follow up, and that I look forward to the further discussions, because this is an ongoing issue that we are now seeing the effects from, but we are not nowhere in the clear yet. So Mr. Speaker and others, thank you so much for your participation this afternoon.
Thank you, Representative. I have to start muting and unmuting because I've got my kids right over there making noise. So thank you, Representative Lente. Representative Eli, we'll come to you for some final thoughts.
So, Mr. Speaker, thanks, and thanks to everybody. But I want to respond with my telephone number to two of the to both Dora and to Dr. Cleveland for entirely different reasons. For Dora, she was asking the question about whether the loan programs from the state require businesses to disclose personal financial information and other things. So at least the small business loan program that we passed, Senate Bill 3, it's only general information. It's just the name of the business that's getting the loan and information for statistical purposes, but financial information from businesses, at least under the small business loan program, I can't speak to the other programs, is not disclosed to the public. That is not public information. So if there's additional information on that, my cell number is 610-6529 if you need it. Again, it's 610-6529. And for Dr. Cleveland, you can have those law students call me. I can't give them a job, but I can head them in the right direction, and I'm happy to do that. I've got a trial a week from Monday, but by October, I should be coming up for air. One final note, we might have some hope on internet. We'll see. I'm kind of keeping my fingers crossed. But for those of you who saw the story in the Journal about 3 weeks ago with what I'm calling blimps, but Secretary Keyes is calling dirigibles, is for a lot less money than laying fiber optics, we might be able to get internet through this company. It's still a proof of concept. We'll have to see how it goes. But by January, we will know. And the advantage is it's a lot less expensive than fiber optics. And it also, if it were to work, it's 5 of these dirigibles at 65,000 feet in the air in stationary orbit that could provide internet, if it works, for everybody in New Mexico, as opposed to like 92 or 95%. So I'm not shilling for the company, but I'm keeping my fingers crossed that it'll work. So we'll see. But so far, so good. So I appreciate all your comments. I'm with Representative Lente. This could have been a much longer discussion, and I really appreciate everybody's contribution. It helps me tons. But if you have any questions, call me, and I'm happy to help. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. And yes, I mean, this is broadband, broadband, broadband. That is the name of the game. And however we get it, whether it's through the dirigibles, I feel a little guilty about that because we had at this time last week, we had an aerospace, an aeronautics town hall. and we had some of the economic development folks there, and I asked them if they could start calling them dirigibles, and maybe it's stuck. I don't know. I feel sort of bad about that. But I agree with my colleagues. This is very helpful. It's great to hear directly from those of you who are on the front lines, serving the community, educating our kids, helping small businesses, employing people. So thank you so much for taking the time to share your thoughts and ideas with us. There will be follow-up from me and my colleagues and our staff, and we want to be well positioned in the upcoming session to be as helpful as we can be, because there's going to be a lot of needs around the state, and we want to get as many of them addressed as possible. I also want to end, as we always do, with an encouragement to anyone who's on the panel, or certainly anyone watching on Facebook, to keep up the good work in slowing and trying to stop the spread of COVID in New Mexico. The work of the people of our state has been excellent. We have really seen a dramatic reduction in the transmission rate and the spread, and it's because of one simple thing that the director of the CDC today testified in Congress is probably more important than a vaccine, which is a mask. He said that is something that is probably more effective at keeping him safe than a vaccine. It keeps your friends, your family, your neighbors, and yourself safe. So please keep it up. The more we do it, the less it's going to seem strange or awkward, and we'll all get used to it. I know that if kindergartners and first graders and second graders can wear a mask at school, so can their grown-up parents, and it's a small thing to do to show respect for your neighbors, your community, your friends and family. So please keep it up. Please wear your mask. Please try to stay physically distant whenever possible. And until next week, stay safe, stay healthy. God bless you all. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.